He didn't know why.
I don't know why, but Jake and me always fought.
We were mates sometimes.
They were mates sometimes.
And then we were in the principal's office again, getting into trouble for punching on.
I don't know how they start.
He kicks a goal.
I tell him he was offside.
I shove him.
He whacks me.
Then Jake tells him he's well, I better not say that in the podcast.
It's like when it's a sunny day and then suddenly there's a storm there.
And you didn't even see it coming.
But you can feel that electricity in the air.
The principal made us do Tae Kwan Doh.
The principal had this idea to get them to do Tae Kwan Doh.
We thought it was cool.
Get in a fight with permission.
But there was more bowing than kicking.
More listening than punching.
Sensei said we could break a bit of wood.
Just with their hands.
Some of the other kids did it.
Some of the others did it.
But he was not the biggest kid.
I'm not the biggest kid. I was scared I wouldn't do it. I was scared it would hurt. I was scared they would laugh at me.
Jake could see it.
But he told the other guys to shut up.
When they said I was a chicken.
Jake said, I'll hold the wood.
I'll hold the wood. You can do this.
Just picture the wood is my head.
Just picture the wood is my head.
I laughed.
He laughed.
And then he felt okay.
Then I felt okay.
He smashed that bit of wood.
But he didn't think about the wood being Jake's head.
He thought about the wood as being his fear.
And his friendship with Jake was the electricity
that helped him strike his fear in two.
You're listening to Shift. My name is Kira and I'm your host for today. Quick shout out to Anthony, Zane and Thomas who featured in that story at the top of the show, which we call That Electricity. Shift stands for Shaping How I Feel Today, and the theme for today's episode is With Others in Mind. So in this episode, you are going to get a bunch of different kinds of stories that will get us thinking about the ways in which our health and well-being is influenced and affected by others, and vice versa. Between the last episode and this one, Sharif and I went to the local ABC radio studio. We went with our crew mentors, Shanice and Elias, to talk to Drive program host Lindsay McDougal about our podcast. He recorded us for his show, so we decided to return the favour and record him for our show.
When we speak to people from First Nations communities, and I'm very aware that I didn't do it today, I often try and do a bit of research into what country they're from or what country they're living on. And so, I'll be able to say, this is Carlia Linton Noon, she's a Kamilaroi woman. Kamilaroi?
Yeah, right here.
Nice one. Yeah. Bass player in our band's Kamilaroi as well.
Oh, respect.
Yeah, we got you guys covered. Don't worry about it.
100%.
Nice.
Could be related.
Yep.
Probably could be, yeah.
I spoke to a Kamilaroi woman the other day. I was telling Jason, our singer, about it on air, but I had to ask her a country because I couldn't find out for the interview. But there's nothing wrong with that either, obviously.
It's nothing, yeah.
Yeah, and she was a Kamilaroi woman living on Biripi country from memory.
I'm Biripi.
Oh, there we go. Hey!
It's all.
And so that's the great part about Indigenous communities. That subject there of asking them where their country is, that's keeping them in mind, and that's a great way to be able to start off any conversation with an Indigenous person, is asking where they come from, and even getting yourself or them to do the acknowledgement as well.
Yeah, we want to acknowledge that we are telling stories to you today from the homelands of the Dharawal, the Maori and Wadi Wadi peoples, and pay our respects to the elders in our community. Shift is one of our podcasts from the Edge, and in a way, the whole of this podcast project is about keeping others in mind, because the podcasts are being made to create opportunities for us mob who live in places that are considered disadvantaged. We're going to jump back into a bit more of the conversation with Lindsay from the ABC. And because Lindsay decided to start his broadcast story with our trailer, we thought we would do that too. It gives you a bunch of information about the way our project keeps others in mind.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the place to be, we're calling out for the SHIFT. That's shaping how I feel today.
That's what Shift is about.
We're a group of young people that happen to be growing up in places that are considered disadvantaged.
If you want to hear what we think,
Stories that come from our experiences
and our communities,
Hi, Mum.
then you want to check out our brand new podcast.
Our podcasts are unique, like all of us.
Check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
Our stories and our voices from the Dharawal Nation to your station. Growing up in places that are considered disadvantaged, but we use that to our advantage. Let us set this up so y'all can understand it. We made this here following our 10 pod commandments.
Our 10 pod commandments. so check it out.
Number 1.
Making the podcast should create opportunities for people who are living in disadvantaged communities.
2. The people featured,
That's
the voices and the faces.
Must be the people living, growing up in these places.
Number 3.
Everyone is the creator and the author. So the credits, if you read it, are in alphabetic order. 4.
The stories told should be based on our interests.
Drawn from my life experience with heart to make you invest.
Number 5.
F to the I, to the V, to the E. Every yarn should be different like a rich tapestry.
Number 6.
Break it down, share the love in the verse, and make sure that each story is told by more than one person.
Number 7.
There's no selection process that involves rejections.
If you wanna participate, then there'll be no objections.
Number 8.
So you can't make it because life got in the way. Well, that's okay, bros. Shake it off. We'll pick it up another day.
Number 9. If you're not born to perform, there's no commitment, cause everyone's allowed to have a go at the equipment. 10. We go ahead on any day in any weather, and the purpose of the project is to bring people together.
Check it out, yo. Check it out. Check out our podcast, Shift. Coming soon to your living room. Yo. Car.
Just chuck us on anywhere.
Bus stop.
Going for a walk.
Wherever, yo.
With a dog.
Whatever the platform.
Spotify.
Whatever the situation.
Apple Podcasts.
At the station.
YouTube.
Across the nation.
It's free.
Hi, Mum.
Was that good?
And we out.
So how did you guys get to start? Tell me the story about making this podcast.
Oh, goodness. How did you first get involved
Yeah.
with Beyond Empathy, really? I just moved in to where we all grew up, and Shanice lives down the road for me, and I became friends with Lily. She's in the movie as well, Protection. And then, yeah, just all kind of went from there. We met Phil and Gemma.
What about you, Cherie?
It probably started when I was like 10 or something. Yeah. And
10.
Phil was doing stuff with like my older brother. My brother ended up moving away, so I ended up becoming the star.
Yeah, so like the way that Beyond Empathy works is like, as the song said, like we make stories based on like life experiences and that. So like young people like Kira, young people like Sharif, they're like, oh yeah, well I like to play footy or I like to, you know, go skating or whatever. And we incorporate those sorts of passions and what they like into the stories.
Tell me, Takira, what do you get to do in these podcasts?
Well, being older than the younger kids, I get to help out with them. Like just help with, if they need help with lines or just need confidence or anything. Or I do get involved with the podcast, I like talk on it. But I mostly like to sit back because I want the little kids to enjoy it because I got the chance to do a film.
What do you see? So what do you see when you sort of see these kids getting to do this, you know, I guess talk for the first time, hear their voices back in the headphones for the first time?
Well, it's exciting. Like they get a bit of like excitement, they get a bit hypo, and they're just, wow, like this is a big thing for them because they don't really know what it's like because they're so young. But I just want them to enjoy this because it's a really good thing to grow up doing. I really enjoyed it.
Like seriously, on the list of things you could have forever memorialised of what you were doing when you're young, this is up there as a good thing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that can be, especially these days, everything you do as a kid is around forever now. Elias, Sharif, Takira, and Shanice, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Drive with Lindsay McDougal.
Shout out to Sharif and me who featured in that story. Thanks to our crew mentors, Elias and Shanice, and special thanks to Lindsay and everyone at the ABC. Now, normally in our podcast, we just go from one story to the other, but today we are going to try something a bit different. The next story we have for you is actually split into 3 chapters, and you'll get to hear them all by the end of the episode. The story is called Billy Kart Champion, and it's about a girl who decides to go in the Billy Kart Derby. She wants to win, sure, but she also has some other reasons to go in the race. Reasons that have a lot to do with the people around her, who she cares about. That's often the way, isn't it? The things we do and the things we don't do are often influenced by what we want from others and what others expect of us. In between the chapters of the Billy Kart Champion story, we have 3 other stories. Good Game, Bad Game, where we talk about video games. Hidden Harvest, where we find out about a program that definitely has others in mind. And One of the Team, where we meet one of the registered players of the Collegians Football Club and find out about the unique role he plays in the team. The first officially recorded billy cart derby was held in Germany, 1904. The Port Kembla Billy Cart Derby was first held in 1941. So generations of people in our community made and raced billy carts or went to watch others. This made it a perfect setting for this story we wanted to tell. Billy Cart Champion Chapter 1.
The little grass area in the middle of the cul-de-sac was a perfect stage for a dance or a piece of drama.
Or some gymnastics.
That is when you could get rid of the kids who just wanted to play football on it.
They would crash through anyone and anything, no matter what moving dramatic acting or incredible acts of gymnastic artistry were going on.
Anyway, today the footballers were not around, so Lil and some of the other kids were showing off their cartwheels and handstands.
All their houses stood around, looking on from around the cul-de-sac stage.
The air was warm and fuzzy.
The sun was their spotlight.
And dark still seemed ages away.
That was when she saw it. From the corner of her eye,
Brad carrying a box out to his car.
She stopped her dramatic twirl and looked properly.
Her stomach suddenly felt heavy.
Why?
It was just her mum's boyfriend putting a box in the boot of his car.
But if this scene had been in a movie,
a strange chill breeze would have been blowing leaves around him and the music would have swelled. It was that sort of moment.
But it was really just a guy, her mum's boyfriend.
Closing the boot after having put a box in the car.
The sun slipped behind a cloud, the spotlight out.
It was just a guy walking back into a house.
But something in Lily knew it wasn't just that.
Lily ran over to hers.
Her mum was in the kitchen washing up, looking out the window.
Mum, what's Brad doing?
She said.
Moving his stuff back to his.
Her mum's voice was flat and she didn't turn to look at Lil when she spoke.
For good?
Said Lil.
It looks like it.
Looks like it.
Brad was in the bedroom. Well, her mum's bedroom.
The room looked strange.
Its personality was being altered. His motorbike poster was off the wall.
His collection of stinky cologne and deodorants were off the set of drawers.
His worn-out sneaker collection had disappeared from the edge of the bed.
Lil walked in and over to another box perched on the bed.
Brad didn't say anything.
He didn't really look at her either.
He just kept getting clothes out of the drawer and putting them in an old suitcase.
She felt so guilty.
I mean, she knew something was going on.
The arguments, the cold shoulders.
The silences.
But she had just thought it was normal.
They fought before.
They went silent before.
She just thought they would sort it out.
Now she wondered how she could have let it get this bad.
Why didn't she do something?
She found herself absently picking up stuff from the box.
Brad glanced over at her, almost like he was expecting her to start putting it back into place. She wished she could, but she didn't know where these things went.
She was holding some old motorbike magazine.
He went back to putting clothes in the suitcase.
She started to put the magazine back in the box when something fell out.
A bit of old newspaper, all folded up.
She picked it up and unfolded it.
So does this mean I'm not going to see you anymore?
She blurted out as she did.
I don't know, Lily.
He said, flat voice like her mother.
He was uncomfortable.
He didn't know what to say.
But he sounded very sad, like her mum.
How did I let this happen, she thought.
She looked down at the newspaper clipping. It was a news story from the local paper about the billy cart derby, but from years ago.
There was a photo of a kid standing next to his billy cart holding a trophy. She looked closer at the picture. No.
She looked at the caption.
Brad Hayward, 12, of Port Kembla, with his winning trophy.
Is that you?
She blurted out, showing him.
Did you win?
Brad looked over at the newspaper and then actually smiled.
And he smiled.
He put the clothes down and walked over to her.
Yeah. Where'd you get that from?
It fell out of that magazine.
Really? Wow. I had no idea I still had that.
That's mad!
Said Lil.
My dad used to build all my carts then.
He said. Brad pointed at a figure in the background of the picture.
Yeah, that's him there.
That's him there.
Lil knew Brad's dad. She called him Pop. She was amazed to see him so young. Looking like Brad, actually. Oh, yeah. Brad stood close to her.
Close to her.
Like he had many times. Lil had never known her real dad.
He left before she was born.
And her mum had a few other boyfriends.
But none like Brad.
He was kind and he was funny and he was always there.
She'd even started calling him Dad on occasions. And she liked it. And he did too.
And he liked it too.
She
looked at the picture, envying that he had a dad who stood behind him and made him billy carts.
She looked at Brad's dad closer.
He was hard to make out, but she thought how proud he looked. Lil had never done the Billy Cart Derby. Just now she pictured herself in that photo with a trophy.
And a proud dad.
If this was a movie, the light would be golden, the music would be all strings and orchestras. Lil felt a surprising sting of tears.
Yeah, he kept that cart in the garage for years.
Brad was saying.
Does he still have it?
A thought entered Lil's mind so quickly.
Insistent. Hopeful.
Golden.
Tears evaporating. But Brad's smile faded away and he moved back over to packing his memories.
The orchestra squeaking to a halt.
Nah. Mum made him chuck it out.
Lil didn't want to let it go.
Do you still have the trophy?
She asked. I think so, he said. At my place.
My place? Did he mean Pop's place?
Did he mean Pop's place? She knew Brad kept things at Pop's place. Pop used to complain about it.
When are you going to take this rubbish? I want it then.
He would say.
And Lil had never heard Brad call Pop's place my place before.
Who called it Dad's place? Or Pop's place if he was talking to her?
Not my place.
This was his place.
He pretty much spent all day every day with her and her mum.
Do you reckon I can come over your house and see it?
She asked. I don't know, Lily, he said. Depends on your mum, I expect. I don't think so, thought Lil. Time for me to fix this. He zipped up the suitcase. And within half an hour, he was gone.
He was gone.
And everything that reminded her of him was gone too.
She wasn't sad anymore. Because it was just not going to be over like this.
She wanted it too much.
She knew what to do.
Your cousin was in Billy Cart Derby last year, right?
Lily said to Kira.
They were waiting in terms of playing handball on the road next to the cul-de-sac.
Kira was still watching the play.
Jacob was showing some good skills to Cheyenne, but Cheyenne wasn't giving up.
Yeah, she was. Where'd they get the Billy Cart from?
Lil asked. I think
My
my
Auntie Grace has it,
said Kira.
But
Where'd she get it from?
Dunno, maybe they made it. My Uncle Dale does stuff like that. Do you reckon they could help make me one?
Said Lil.
You want to go in the race?
Said Kira.
Yeah, it'd be mad fun.
Mad fun with a death wish. Lil worked on Kira for an hour or so before Kira agreed to walk over to see her aunt and ask about the billy cart.
Well, look what the wind blew in.
Called Auntie Grace as soon as they walked through the door.
Auntie Grace was sitting in the hall painting a beautiful black swan on a canvas.
She was a pro at making art.
She even painted the billy cart that Kira's cousin Jess had ridden last year.
Hey, Aunt.
Said Kira.
Do you know the billy cart that Jess used last year? Is she using it again this year?
Auntie Grace looked up surprised.
Why, you thinking about doing it?
Kira shook her head emphatically.
Lily wants to do it.
Auntie Grace nodded to herself and then gave Lil an appreciative look.
Ah, brave girl, Lily.
Then she told a story about a dude a few years ago who was riding down in a bathtub.
Smashed.
The bathtub cracked and the guy ended up getting stitches in his eyebrow.
Getting stitches.
Lil tried to keep her smile, but it was hard.
She didn't feel brave.
But some things just have to be done.
Lil was hungry, thirsty, but satisfied with how things were going.
She now had a billy cart she could ride.
Tick.
She walked in the front door and headed straight for the fridge.
Her mum was on the lounge folding clothes.
Hi, baby.
Her mum said, sounding concerned.
Not flat now.
Looking at her intently.
Hi, Mum.
Lily was breezy in response to her mother's concerned voice.
This was always the best way to handle that.
What have you been up to?
Her mum said, trying some chit-chat.
Nothing.
Said Lil. Maybe I can get this over with, she thought.
Can I go in the billy cart derby?
She blurted.
What?
This was about the last thing her mum expected her to say. In her confusion, she stammered.
We don't have a billy cart.
Kira's auntie's gonna lend me one.
Really?
Can I have something to eat?
No, it's too close to dinner.
Her mum said mechanically, and then getting back on track.
Do you realise how steep that hill is?
Yeah.
Said Lil in her breeziest voice.
Lil headed for her room.
This conversation was already awkward enough.
But her mum still managed to slip the real question in just as she reached her door.
Do you want to talk about what happened with Brad today?
No.
She said, breezier than ever.
And then from inside her bedroom she called back.
He's gonna come see me at the billy cart race.
What? Her mum called back.
Brad's gonna come see me at the billy cart race.
Lil flopped face down on the bed.
On the bed.
It made such a noise in her head that she wasn't sure if her mum was saying something else. What did you
say? Lil called out sitting up.
Looking at the wall that was in the direction of the lounge room.
I didn't say anything, her mum called back.
Well, if she wasn't going to do anything about Brad, then Lil knew it would have to be her.
On the wall she was looking at was a poster, blue tacked to the wall that she made at school last term.
All about me, it said in the middle.
She had pasted some photos of herself
And written things about herself, what she was good at, that sort of thing.
Nice, kind, good dancer,
etc. She sprung up and grabbed a texter from her desk and whipped off the lid.
When she sat down again, the poster had a new addition.
Billy Cart champion.
It said,
written in her own neat, tidy handwriting.
To be continued. Once upon a time, video gaming was something people mostly did by themselves, but not anymore. And is it as bad for your health as people say? Let's discuss. Good game, bad game.
Well, can everyone tell me what kind of games they're playing right now?
Rocket League.
Rocket League, cool.
Fortnite,
yeah.
Neon Abyss.
Neon Abyss. I've not heard of that one before. That's great. What do you like about it?
Probably about like strategy and stuff, what character to use, their abilities.
I'm watching the trailer now and it looks really cool.
When we are thinking about our health and well-being, are video games good or bad? In the middle of the first COVID-19 lockdown in Australia during 2020, some of us jumped on a Zoom call with Javid, who is an editor, animator, filmmaker, podcast maker, you name it. His YouTube channel, Good Blood, where he posts videos about the things he loves about movies and video games, has over 150,000 followers. So he knows a bit of stuff about games. Most of us play a lot of video games, all except Phil, one of our crew mentors, who is very old, so old he can remember a time when video games didn't even exist. Hard to believe, but apparently true. No offense, Phil. We talked for quite a while, so we're not going to bore you with all of it. And I'm not sure where we came down on the good or bad question. So we just decided to give you 6 discussion points. 3 sort of on the good side and 3 sort of on the bad side. So I guess, like many things in life, you were just going to have to decide this question for yourself. Here we go. Bad. Discussion point 1. Stops you getting out.
Right. Sometimes I just I play my game and I get bored and I go, I wonder if anybody's outside. So I go outside and I have a look, I'm like, nobody outside. So I go back and instead of playing games, I just watch YouTube.
I mean, I think you guys are like where you live, you've got a bit of an advantage over some other people because some other communities, like people don't have like friends nearby. It's much more of an effort to go and find them. But where most of you guys live, you can mostly just walk outside and find someone else to hang out with. So
I think I would have a better balance of playing outside and playing video games if there were more people who didn't play as much video games and went outside. Because usually when I go outside and have a look to see if anybody's playing, there's nobody there because I'm pretty sure everybody's inside playing video games.
Good. Discussion point 1, brain training.
There's been a lot of study, a lot of professional study on video games and the brain and how everyone's brain is affected by video games. It's all about reaction. It's all about timing. And it's all about thinking on your feet, problem solving, strategy, all under pressure. But that's actually, the games where you put under a lot of pressure are actually great for the brain.
Bad. Discussion point 2, violent.
The first thing I would think of is maybe from parents or adults who don't play video games, who see other people play them. And what they're seeing are kids with controllers running around with guns in video games, shooting people, zombies or whatever.
Like the same people probably are prepared to like watch violent movies where people shoot people and what have you, because that's sort of a staple of entertainment. But still, it's different though, watching somebody else shoot somebody to being the person who's shooting them, I suppose. That sort of forms part of that line of thinking.
Yeah, people think like violent games aren't good for your mental health. So like when you grow up, you get like violent.
Do you think that's true?
I mean, I'm not quite sure actually, because it could affect some people, but yet again, it couldn't affect other people.
I think that's probably right. Yeah, like we do know there's stories of people who've done terrible crimes who've been influenced by really strange things like Beatles songs, like that are not even about anything violent.
Thinking about the violence is the story that's being placed on top of the system. So a video game itself is a system. It's a bunch of code and rules. So think of it like a chess game, right? So when you're playing chess, you've got black and white pieces and different pieces do different things. That's the system. But what they've done is they've named the tall one the king, and they've named the small ones the pawn, and that's the story that you're putting on top of chess. It actually has no impact on the system itself. It doesn't matter that it's a king, or it doesn't matter that it's a pawn. And so when you're talking about a violent video game, it's actually almost like the paint job on top of the system. In a way, it's not violent at all. When you think of it just as a system, they've created that system for the players to get into that state of flow.
Good. Discussion point 2. Flow.
So some other studies they've done is looking at the human brain playing a video game. And what they've found is that it gets into the state, it's called flow. And they find that it's the state of almost like meditation. They found the same patterns when you're doing meditation. You're in this flow where you're just relaxing the brain, you're focused on the task at hand. The peripheral distractions go away as well. So it's actually, going back to mental health, it can also be really good for you getting into that state of flow.
I never knew that games were actually good for your health and made you think quick on your feet. I always thought that they were just kind of bad for you, but you still play them anyway.
Bad. Discussion point 3. Addictive.
I think a lot of parents think they're very addictive, and it sort of takes up a lot of time when they could be doing other stuff they're supposed to be doing.
It keeps us up too late, and when we go to school the next day, we can't really learn because we're tired.
Is that true, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not so much the video gaming, but it's the staying up late.
Yeah.
So what is it about the video game that makes you stay up late?
I don't know, I don't know, when you die, just want to play again. I just feel like going again till I keep win again.
Yeah, I guess that's the great formula of the battle royale and Fortnite, where the game is over, it throws you back in as fast as it can just to keep you playing. The dark side of video games, where it actually tries to addict you. So there's Candy Crush. A lot of mobile games do it. It's actually genius, but they use it in a dark way, where they actually try to get players addicted to playing their game and spending money and watch ads. It's pretty evil formulas out there. It's about hijacking the dopamine. When you're playing, it's getting that rush of I could, if I just pay this bit of money, I can get that click again.
Well, it's almost a crossover to gambling, because there's money involved in the sort of...
The reward.
The reward, yeah.
We've got a good story here. What's the bad thing that happened while you were playing Fortnite? Why can't you play Fortnite right now?
Because I spent Mum's credit card money.
Oh no! Tell what happened?
I went to order and pay, and then I done a credit card password and I spent money.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you got in big trouble? My son did that too when he was your age. So how long were you banned for?
Until the August the 20th.
Yeah, right. What were you buying?
The whole item shop.
Oh, rightio.
Sometimes it can become like an addiction, and sometimes it can become really bad for your health. Say, oh no, I die, and you keep on saying one more game, and then you look at the time, oh no, it's 3:00, and that can't be healthy.
Have you sort of solved that sometimes, or do you have to have somebody else tell you to get off, or can you do it yourself?
Sometimes I hop off early, sometimes my mom tells me that I need to get off. It's like a mixture in between both.
That's what normally happens with parents and kids, I think. Like parents hope that their kids would choose things, but sometimes when you're a kid, you don't know which one, even as an adult, you don't know which one to choose. You make decisions that are not that healthy. But anyway, parents are supposed to be there to help you try and figure out which ones to make, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Discussion point 3, friends.
I think video games are really good with making friends. And you never know, maybe some random people that you join could be potential good friends.
When I play games, I usually play with an online community, and it's not just any community, it's family. It's a second family that people of all ages, all ethnicities, everyone's just included in this community, and we're able to be ourselves no matter what. And a lot of people in real life can't really get that sometimes. The community that I'm involved with, they offer so much support that if you feel alone, you can jump on here and you can feel like you're in a room full of people that you love and enjoy talking to. There was this incident that happened like a few years ago where a person like in this online gaming community needed help. They were in a crisis and they lived on the complete opposite side of Australia, and we, people in the community, online community, we all teamed up, like me coming from Wollongong and people coming from Adelaide and people coming from Queensland, all like gathered up our resources and we helped them seek help. I went down to Melbourne and I went to Perth as well to meet these people from this community. It's funny because you jump on this community and you're like, oh, yeah, we play games, but the games is the secondary, whereas the community comes first, where it's a one big family where we're able to be ourselves, and it's great. Shout out to Ozzy, Jay, Zane and Morris who feature in that story. And also Caden, Josh and Latrell, who were also part of that Zoom conversation. And special thanks, of course, to Jarvid. So when we left Lily, she had got herself a billy cart. So what comes next? Billy Cart Champion Chapter 2.
Turned out Uncle Dale had made 2 other billy carts this year, and none of the mission kids wanted to do the race. And Lil worked super hard on Kira to get her to go in the race with her, and finally she agreed.
And Nikki, Kira's little sister, pestered her so much that she became the third.
Uncle Dale had the carts stored under his house at the mission,
but he told them to come and get them any time they wanted so they could have a practice.
He suggested that they take them down to the car park at the surf club.
It had a nice steep hill and a rise on the other side to slow you down, he said.
Make sure you drive straight though,
he warned.
No swerving. I don't want to come around and scrape bits of you off the asphalt.
He made them promise to wear their bike helmets.
And so one afternoon, Kira, Lily and Nikki picked up the billy carts from Uncle Dale's and walked them up the street towards the beach.
Every time there was a little slope in the footpath, they jumped on and had a go.
It was fun.
It was fun. About halfway up the hill to the beach, they were already exhausted.
Let's just do it here, Nikki said. They looked back down the hill they'd been walking.
It looked pretty inviting.
But Uncle Dale said, began Kira.
Stuff you, said Nikki. I'm going here.
She moved the billy cart onto the road heading down a hill, jumped on and took off. She had no fear, that girl.
She tore down the hill and up the other side. She whooped so loud, Lil thought Uncle Dale would have heard it from the mission.
It looked fun, Lil thought, and nothing happened to her.
She tried not to think about leaving scraped bits of herself along the asphalt,
or getting stitches in the eyebrow as she lined up her billy cart on the road and put her legs up.
Off we go.
She started slow.
Her heart was beating fast, but as she picked up speed and the breeze blew in her face,
she relaxed. This was really fun and free. She jolted a bit when the wheels started to wobble. Uncle Dale had warned them about the death wobbles, he called it, but he just said, just don't swerve, remember?
And she did remember.
And within a few seconds, she was at the bottom of the dip and coming up the other side.
Her cart came up to where Nikki was waiting.
That was amazing, she said.
Let's go again.
By the time they had finished,
Lily and Nikki had gone down about 10 times.
Not many cars came by.
But one beeped their horn to get them off the road.
the girls thought it was funny,
But they said sorry anyway. Kira had done it once,
even though she walked back down the hill to almost the bottom and went from there.
but it was a start.
No broken bones?
Lil's mum asked her when she came through the door.
Well, obviously.
Lil thought.
Her mum was making a point about it being dangerous again,
But trying to not do a lecture.
so Lil kept it breezy as usual.
No, it was fun. Where'd you go?
Just down the car park at the surf club, she fibbed.
On the road? The car park, said Lil. The car park road, said her mum.
Oh. Lil had thought her mum would be okay with the car park.
Yes,
Yeah, Mum, that's where Uncle Dale said to go.
Was he with you?
No, but he said it was the best place.
What if a car comes?
No cars came, she lied.
Well, I don't like this idea, Lily.
It's fine. I'm still in one piece.
Well, I think I better come with you next time. I'll get someone to go with you.
Ring Brad. He'll do it.
She said it before she thought about it.
Her mum looked down at the mention of his name.
Well, you have to ring him anyway because he has to know that I'm going in the race.
I don't have to ring him at all. We broke up, remember?
Yes, I remember, said Lily a bit testy.
Can you ring him though?
If you're so keen on talking to him, you ring him.
Her mum offered Lil the phone.
She took it and went to sit at the dining room table.
She hit the dial button
She could hear her heart beating.
The phone rang twice.
and then went straight to the answering machine. Lil had expected him to answer. This freaked her a bit.
It's an answering machine.
She said to her mum, not quite knowing what to do.
Well,
We'll leave a message, her mum said. Beep. Brad, it's Lily. Just wanted to see if you'll come and see me in the Billy Cart Derby. I ended the race.
Can you call me back and tell me if you can come on Mum's phone or send me a letter or something?
Beep. She pressed to hang up. Send you a letter, laughed her mum.
Well, I didn't know what to say.
Lily was angry at her mum now.
For making her do that and for laughing at her.
You did fine,
said her mum.
No help from you.
Said Lil meanly.
What is
What's
that supposed to mean?
Said her mum.
Turning to look at her from what she was doing in the kitchen.
Nothing, said Lil.
Are you angry at me?
Said her mum. Unexpected. Direct.
No.
Lied Lil.
Well, it feels like you are.
Look, love, I know you like Brad. I do too. I still do. But we just didn't get on that good when we were together.
We seem to be always fighting. I don't know why. I don't suppose it's anyone's fault.
Sometimes you just have to try and see if you can get on with someone. And then sometimes it doesn't work out how you thought it would. And it's a bit disappointing.
And after it's finished, people can find it hard to be close friends for a while.
The disappointment is still there. Do you
understand?
Not really, said Lil.
If I fight with my friends, we just make up and get on with it.
Her mum laughed.
That's true, you do. Maybe adults should remember what it's like when you're a kid. Might make things a lot better. Her mum walked over and put her arms around her.
I love you, she said. Don't be mad at me.
It was hard to be mad at her in the middle of a cuddle.
Lil didn't know quite what to say or whether she was really mad at her or not.
In the absence of knowing what to say, she ended up with, "What's for dinner?"
All that billy carting made you hungry, her mum smiled. Let me see what we can do then.
To be continued. The song you're listening to now was written as part of a workshop run by First Nations singer-songwriters Shelley Morris and Troy Jungaji with young people from one of our partner organisations, Southern Youth and Family Services. The chorus features lyrics in the Dharawal language.
Attempting to try again, my false reality. Putting up a fight when my world is falling, falling. Walking through the dark, trying to find my way. Holding my head up high, but my soul is falling, falling. Under wire
translation of the Darrow in the chorus is go to, looking, searching for dreams. Shout out to Shelley, Troy and the young people from SIFS for this brilliant song. And to Jody, who assisted them with the Darrow language. Thanks, Aunt. Jody is on Beyond Empathy's board too. Eating food is something we often do with others in mind. It's a big part of most get-togethers. Birthdays, weddings, parties, even when we are just hanging out with friends. During the 2020 COVID-19 lockdown, we also jumped on a Zoom call with Emily. Emily is from an organisation that runs activities focused on food, people and the environment. And we started our yarn talking about foods we really liked. Hidden Harvest.
My favourite food is sushi.
Oh, sushi. Forgot about that gem.
I eat the salmon ones, or I eat I eat any ones actually.
Do you remember when you first had it?
When I was 10, I had my first sushi.
Did you think before you ate it that you weren't going to like it?
Yeah. But then I tasted it because it was chicken teriyaki, and then it was really nice. But now I'm into all different kinds of sushi, like I don't care which one it is.
Yeah, well, once you've got over the first hurdle, like once you go, oh yeah, that one's good, well, you might as well try the other ones.
Yeah.
What motivated you to start doing community dinners and all that sort of stuff?
I had a lot of friends who started Hidden Harvest actually. So I started Hidden Harvest about 3 years ago, but it's been going for about 5 years. We're trying to curb food waste. So a lot of the time, the industries, shops and restaurants and even people at home waste their food. And so what we're trying to do is to say you can save some money, you can learn how to be creative with food, and you can be healthy with the food that would have otherwise gone in the bin. My friend Burble, she went over to Ghana, which is a country in Africa, and she saw that so many people were going without food. There was this divide between people that had a lot of food and would waste it, and then those people that didn't have access to food at all. And so she realised that there was a lot of waste that was happening back home in Australia as well. So that's why she started Hidden Harvest. But I joined because I saw all of my friends doing this amazing thing, which was engaging with lots of different people in the community. And they were having fun doing something good for their health and for the environment. So that's why I wanted to join, to meet people and to be, inspired by other people. So we do workshops and we do community dinners, and it's for people of all ages and people of all diversities throughout the community.
Tell us about what happens in one of these community dinners that you host.
The community dinners are called Wasted Wednesday, which is a bit of a play on words because all the food would have otherwise gone in the bin. What happens is we get a team of volunteers who come in the morning. We pick up some produce from a local wholesale vegetable provider, and they will drop off a big box of random vegetables, and we'll have to sort through it and use what we can and try and make creative meals from what we have. So then the team of volunteers all get together and we have a chef, and we basically create a 3-course dinner for about 50 people. One time we got a whole box of lettuce and that was it. How do you cook a meal for 50 people out of simply lettuce? What we did was we combined our thinking and we made a lettuce soup. It was a cold soup, sauteing it all together with some different herbs and spices, and then blitzing it and then popping it in the fridge. And you might think, oh, disgusting, but it was by far the most popular dish we have ever cooked, and people were asking for the recipe. I think it's really good for people to come together, and also a lot of people don't have the ability to come together and eat with other people, so it gives them a good opportunity to meet people and eat together, especially if they live alone or something like that. And the people will come together at the community dinner. The kitchen's open for everybody to see what we're doing, and they'll pay what they feel for the meal. Right at the end, we have a bit of a question and answer with the chef. Maybe they have some uses of the vegetables that we don't know about.
What other types of parts on a vegetable would you use that other people would throw out?
A lot of people peel potatoes and pumpkins. And if you do peel those veggies, what you can do is you can actually put them in the oven and put a bit of olive oil over it or some salt and some oil and then chuck it in the oven, and it creates potato chips or carrot chips or pumpkin chips. I don't know, what are some others? Cauliflower leaves, you can chuck them in the oven and it creates chips as well. So most of the time, what you throw out can actually be used again.
As opposed to being in a restaurant, like where you get served food that somebody else has cooked, what's the feeling that's different?
Oh, I can try and answer that.
Where you go then?
If you're eating dinner at a restaurant, it's just you and who you went with. But in a community dinner, you're talking to everyone in that community because you all sit at like one big table.
Because you've got so many people in one place, and it's also got a meaning with the food and like where it's come from and it's being reused. I reckon there's a meaning in that as well. So that would be, it'd feel different than just going out to a restaurant, because a restaurant, they're using food they get daily. Whereas when you go into these certain community dinners, you get in it, you're reusing it for good reasons.
Well, that's exactly right. I don't think I could have answered it any better than that.
Do any of you cook at home? Do you help in the kitchen?
Yes, of course I do.
What's your specialty?
I like making sushi. I need to get the ingredients.
You make your own sushi?
Sometimes.
Serious? I'm coming over to your place.
I'm coming too, mate.
Yeah, I ain't paying, I'm coming.
Shout out to Gail, Cooper and Jacob who feature in that story. And special thanks to Emily and everyone at Hidden Harvest. We left Lil just after she left her voicemail message for Brad about the Billy Cart Derby. The day of the Billy Cart Derby is approaching. It's always on Lil's mind.
Oh, look, she's winning!
Oh, look, she's winning, her mum said.
Brad was standing next to her mum, close.
He was peering up the hill.
Lil was in her cart.
Lil was in her cart, hurtling down the hill.
The crowd was roaring. Come on, Lil! Yo, Brad and her mum together.
Over the finish line she went.
A cheer.
Brad and her mum were over the barricades and hugging her.
And each other.
A man with a massive trophy was walking towards her, beaming.
Lil woke up.
And as soon as she had, that unsure feeling crept back into the space left by the trophy dream.
Brad had replied to Lil's nervous message.
He wrote,
Good on ya.
Good on ya.
And that was it.
And that was it.
No mention of whether he would come to the race.
She had texted him back asking if he could give her some tips for the race.
But since then, there had been no reply.
She kept checking with her mum till her mum got cranky, and now she took to just sneaking a look on her mum's phone whenever she left it lying around.
But nothing.
He probably felt uncomfortable that he had to reply on her mum's phone.
And she thought,
maybe I should go over to his place.
Later that morning, she caught two buses and walked for 15 minutes to get to his place.
Pop, well, Brad's dad, answered the door.
Well, well, looky here.
He beamed.
Lovely to see you, Lil.
She felt all warm. This was the first time she had seen Pop since Brad left.
And he seemed just the same.
Brad, he called out loudly back down the hall.
You've got a gorgeous girl down here, wants to say hello.
Brad poked his head into the hall, confused.
Lil, what are you doing here, he said.
Come to see you. You said you showed me the Billy Cart trophy.
I heard you were going in the race,
said Pop, sounding impressed.
Brad was still down the hall.
Brad said, not quite sure what that trophy is.
It's in the garage,
said Pop.
Come in, Lil, don't stand on the doorstep like a stranger.
Dad, I just have to duck out for a meeting.
I thought you said you were mowing my lawn.
Work just phone,
said Brad, sounding a bit irritated.
I better go, back in an hour or so. Sorry, Lil, maybe another time.
Okay,
she said.
But her warm feeling was gone.
How did you get here, said Pop.
I caught the bus.
Brad looked confused again.
She caught the bus all the way here to see that trophy,
Pop said to Brad.
It will only take a couple of minutes.
The trophy seemed smaller than she recalled from the newspaper.
Or maybe it had just grown in size in her dreams.
Pop had directed them to a shelf full of old trophies and ornaments in the garage. Pop kept up a running story about all the billy carts they had made and raced.
He said that he and Brad had not missed the Billy Cart Derby ever.
Not since Brad was a little kid.
Except for the couple of years when it got rained out.
Pop made the whole situation seem okay.
Brad started to seem less confused.
And even offered to give Lil a lift home on the way to his meeting. Lil felt so good sitting in the front seat of his car again on the way home.
He put the radio on On her favourite channel, like he always did.
And they sat listening to the latest hits and the banter from the DJs.
She asked him for any tips on the race.
And he said, just have fun and don't crash.
And they both laughed.
And they both laughed.
When they got home, she kind of forgot that he wasn't coming in with her.
And as he drove away, she realised she forgot to ask him where she could meet him on the day of the race.
But it was okay. Papa said he never missed a race.
Her mum would be there, they would talk.
She would win.
It would all be okay.
Lily pushed her way through the crowds.
Kira had just raced.
She cried as she was on the starting ramp.
She was so scared.
She was so scared.
But she went anyway.
Lil had watched her hurdle down the hill.
She was racing a boy named Nigel who went to their school.
The kids from the mission said they would bash him if he won.
They didn't need to. Kira won her heat.
And with that over and done with, she went and got fairy floss.
Lil finally glimpsed her mum leaning up against the barricade up ahead. Her mum had positioned herself near the finishing line, as Lil had asked her to, but now that the real day was here, it was hard to see how she and Brad would be able to get over the barricades if Lil won her race. There were lots of marshals in yellow vests.
And they were making sure no one got onto the road.
The track was the main street.
It was an old street, lined with old shops and pubs.
When the very first Billy Cart Derby had been raced, years ago, this place would have been packed every day, with people getting off work at the steelworks, or doing their shopping.
But once the big shopping centre opened up, the main street started becoming like a ghost town.
But not on Billy Cart Derby Day.
Lil had no idea how many people were there.
But it was a lot.
The street was one big steep dip.
Today, lined with orange barricades, the pedestrian strip was now packed with onlookers, cheering on their kids.
Laughing at the novelty Billy Cart races, like the big wedding cake and the guy in the bathtub on wheels.
Lil finally got to her mum.
She felt nervous in so many ways she couldn't really describe them all.
She tried not to show it.
Hey baby, you okay? Said her mum.
Yeah,
said Lil.
Did you see Brad? She had told her mum she was meeting Brad at the marshalling area,
where he would give her some tips.
She fully planned to find Brad in the crowd and lead him back to her mum.
She felt sick.
She hadn't found him.
So she didn't say anything.
Well, I suppose he's probably on his way.
Can I send him a text? Lil said. Mum handed her the phone.
Lil started texting Brad.
My race is at 10:15. Lil and Mum both waited for a message tone. The races were still going on.
Right lane 18.
This guy with a big megaphone was yelling out all these letters and numbers and kept repeating them.
Lil was still looking around.
Surely he would turn up.
Just at the last moment.
She could tell him where her mum was and then concentrate. Her stomach was in her mouth.
A guy was gesturing
at her and saying something.
Right lane.
The sounds of people talking.
The megaphone.
Everything started to fade. The only thing Lil could hear was the squeaky wheels on her cart.
Two guys put the billy cart onto the starting ramp.
They gestured for Lil to get in.
Drive straight, she thought.
Don't swerve. The
metal
lever
fell down.
The roar was back.
The cart started to move and pick up speed.
Drive straight.
And just like in practice, somewhere at the point where the
wind started rushing at her face and the pressure of the speed pushed her to lean even further back in the cart. She relaxed. She felt all the tension go. She was flying. It was pure joy.
Pure joy.
She wasn't even paying attention to the girl she was competing against until she was nearly at the finishing line. And suddenly realised that she was winning.
She whooshed over the finish line and the crowd seemed to roar.
She looked up
and around.
And all around.
Trying to get her bearings.
The cart slowed and she got off and started pulling it up the hill.
Her eyes still scanning to the right, looking for her mum.
There she was, smiling, clapping, and by herself. Suddenly, all Lil's elation at the race and the win fell away.
Her mum was by herself. The tears welled up.
She was close enough to her mum that her mum realised she was crying and opened her arms.
Lil rushed towards her and fell into them.
Tears streaming down her face.
She could hear her mum saying,
You did it! You did it, baby! You won! But she didn't do it. She knew that.
Mission failed.
She let it go and relaxed even more into her mum's hug.
Ah, baby, I'm so proud of you. You're through to the next heat. But you don't have to do it if you don't want. If you want, we can just sit it out.
No, she thought. No sitting it out.
She pulled herself back.
No, I'm okay. I can do it. I'm just okay now, she said. Her mum kissed her.
Lil started to walk up the hill to start the process of getting ready for the next race. Drive straight, her mum said. I will, she said.
Shout out to me, Nikki, Bella, Lily, Daniel, Jesse, Shaniqua, Anthony, and Josh, who feature in that story. Special thanks to Lisa, who features doing some of the mum lines, Brad, who does some of the Brad lines, and Annie Lorraine, who plays Auntie Grace. And that brings us to our final story for this episode of Shift. This is a story about the beautiful things that can happen when people keep others in mind. One of the team.
We first met Reese in 2015. His mum had said we should go and see what he gets up to at the Collegians Rugby League Club. So we went down on a Tuesday night when the first grade team were training. Straight away, Reese knew what to do when it came to interviews for his story. He was a born director, reminding us to keep on task and get the microphone on him so we could get things going. He really wanted to interview Saxon, one of the players, so he took us out onto the field to find him among the players who were warming up.
Saxon! Jared, where's Saxon?
I think he's in the sheds, mate.
In the sheds. In the sheds. Oh, Saxon in the sheds.
On the way back to the sheds to find Saxon, we found some of the coaching team who Reese decided to interview while he could.
Where you going to start that game against Cornwall?
Yes, we have. And we're going to win, aren't we, Reese?
Yeah.
You're the ground manager again?
Ground manager again?
Yep. He's officially on our books as ground manager. Assistant. He is. Anyway, does it well, don't you, Reese?
Yeah.
He was a pretty harsh director when things got off topic.
Hey, Joe. Come talk second.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Action. Joe?
Action. Yes,
where you start that game against Cornwall?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there a bit late on Saturday. I've got an RSL service on Saturday. I've got to go and do before I go out there. Up in the Cenotaph in McCabe Park in Wollongong.
11:30.
Yeah, 11 o'clock, and then I'll be up cut. In other words, Joe, piss off.
But he was definitely giving us a picture of his role at the Collegians Club.
What do you do training?
I coach the boys.
You coach the boys?
And the kids. You see, you come down on Monday night. You help me sometimes. You come out and play the ball for the boys, don't you?
Yeah. Where you do Monday kids?
Monday night with the kids, junior development squad. And you come down and watch.
Yeah.
And we had the kids there on Monday, and then Tuesdays we train. You're here again.
Yeah.
Thursday we train. You're here again.
Yeah.
Saturday we play. You're here again.
Where's Saxon?
Is he here?
He's here.
Oh, I haven't seen him yet.
So we ended up in the sheds, still looking for the elusive Saxon.
Hey, Saxon! Where's Saxon gone? Oh, no!
Not there?
Not there.
Finally, we found him. He had managed to sneak past us during one of the interviews, and he was on the field already after having got his finger bandaged.
Saxon, come here.
What's happening? Little interview, is it?
Next, action.
What's that?
Action.
Oh, action.
Where you come from?
Where I come from? I come originally from Redfern. In Sydney, yeah.
Sydney.
In Sydney.
Saxon, are you playing fullback reserve?
Nah, I'm playing number 7 this week in the halves, so I can qualify. But I'll be playing first as well.
You fullback first grade?
Yeah, I'll be coming on first grade in fullback or lock.
Lock.
Yeah.
We need Saxon, Reese. We need Saxon to train, brother.
Need Saxon train.
Yeah, come and train.
Good.
You want to come train?
No, cut.
Cut? Oh, cut.
Thanks, Reese.
They did manage to persuade Reese to go and do some stretches and warm-ups, though he was still on directing mode while he was doing it. Picture Reese with one arm on Saxon's shoulder and the other arm on his mate Jimmy's shoulder, doing high kicks to stretch out their legs, and this is their dialogue.
Action.
Action. You're on. What's for dinner?
Chicken chips tonight. Chicken chips.
Action.
No, a cut.
Where are you going to get chicos?
Action.
Chicos.
Cut.
Yeah, so Reese has a preference for very short scenes. Straight and to the point, I guess. Reese also got us to talk to his dad, Craig.
I've had a passion for rugby league all my life, played it. My oldest boy, Callum's, he's played it as well, and he dropped off the last couple of years, so it was kind of sad that I missed me local football, and when Reese got back into it, I thought, wow, how good is this? Reese, I think, has a passion for all sports, whether it's the V8 supercars, the haka that the Kiwis do before the Wallabies test. He can read, a sporting guide, but he probably wouldn't read a history book, Reese loved football, loved rugby league, loved watching it. Didn't like the experience of big game St George type of experience, so we found it somewhat difficult for him to kind of enjoy the football because of the amount of people that were there. So the local league provided that kind of stimulus for him, and over the 3 years he slowly got very comfortable with all the players and all the team members, so much so that they've made him a registered player this year where he can come onto the field and sit in the dugout with the boys.
Action. Why has sore finger?
My finger, yeah, it's getting better. I won't play again this year, but...
Ryan?
Yeah.
I'll see you next year, 2016, come back on.
Yeah, I'll be back. Are you going to be back?
Be back.
Yeah? Okay. If you're back, I'll
Ryan, you're
Yeah.
playing full next week, next Saturday, full?
I'll be there, but I won't play.
Next year?
Yeah, I'll play next year. Are you going to play?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll be full back.
No, you full back.
You'll be captain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Her mate Reese.
How did I meet you?
Yeah.
Remember when you used to come on the sidelines every game? You used to
So,
stand there and you had all your colours gear on, and then Jimmy asked you to come in the sheds after we won the grand final, and that's how I met you. Best friends ever since.
Cut.
Yeah.
So at first, Reese's family brought him down to the games because it wasn't the sensory overload that the big NRL games were, and I guess it might have just stayed at that if it wasn't for Jimmy. Jimmy has Aboriginal and also Fijian heritage, which you'll hear more about in a sec.
I just remember walking in, even coming to the games, and I remember Reese would always, Reese knew my name, and he said, Jimmy, as I walked past, and I was shocked. I was like, wow, this kid knows my name. And then I got to know his name, and then before we knew it, then me and Reese become good friends.
Guess what? Maggie got a dog, Maggie.
Oh, yep. And my girlfriend's dog, little Maggie. Reese is friends with little Maggie. One day, Reese was meant to look after Maggie at Helensburgh footy field, and we looked around and Maggie was on the field. So her uncle Reese wasn't looking after her. Remember when you let Maggie go? Helensburgh?
Maggie!
Yeah.
We played the dog first Saturday game.
But Reese has got a picnic blanket now that he won.
Picnic blanket?
Yep, that him and Maggie are going to sit on the hill, and if Reese brings some food, Maggie will hang out with him all day, won't she? And even when I was over in the World Cup in the UK, Reese would get up and watch all my games in the World Cup, and he'd be replaying our Fiji national anthem non-stop. If you ask him to sing the Fiji national anthem, he could sing it. He probably wouldn't know 2 words of the Aussie one, but the Fiji one, he knows the Fiji national anthem? Yeah.
Reese has come leaps and bounds with that friendship, and it's a mutual friendship. He gets up on Jimmy's farm and helps out and does different jobs, and I think they've got a good relationship.
Well, I don't keep an eye on when we play or who we play, because Reese is my source.
You get a Saturday game against Carmel?
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock, isn't it now?
2:30?
2:30.
And I've even had to ring Kylie sometimes, so Reese's mum, to ask her where we're, because I know Reese will know even if she doesn't know. So Reese is a bit of a manager for me anyway, for this team.
Reese also wanted to do an interview of himself, and he started talking about Jimmy and then on to other things that were on his mind. And I'll give you some background on all that.
Jimmy is good.
Jimmy is good.
Jimmy's a Fiji guy.
He's a Fiji guy. He's going to play for Fiji again next year.
Fiji ground. Then got him on TV.
Nana's at home watching TV.
Dr. Martin on tonight.
Doc Martin is on at 7:30.
Nan saw foot.
Nan has a sore foot.
Nan saw knee.
Then one of the players kicked a ball high in the air behind
Watch
us.
out the ball!
Reese isn't shy about saying when they've had a bad game.
He comes in at the right time, especially when we've been flogged. After the game, the coach has ripped into us. Everything will go dead silent, and then Reese will get up and he'll say, training Tuesday. it just breaks everything from all this, we played bad. Reece would come up with that, and that's like, gets everyone back, like, that's so true, training Tuesday, move on, and that's why sometimes, some of the things he says, you really got to take it in and just sort of listen to what he said, and a lot of the time he's bang on, because he loves footy, he's passionate about it, and yeah, the boys would struggle without Reece, I reckon.
I think everyone comes with a smile because he's here and it keeps everyone happy, gets everyone talking. Oh, it's awesome. It's beautiful.
Big thing for all the boys have been real good for him, so when they make it easy for Reece to do it, they all know his name and they always say hello to him, and this is his safe zone, and Reece knows that when he comes here he's safe and he's wanted.
Makes all the guys more humble in what they do in their everyday life, appreciate the good things. It's exciting to come in the gate and have him there waiting for us. Hand out to shake hand every week, every Thursday, every Tuesday, isn't it, mate? I think some of the players look forward to it as much as you do.
Hey, cut.
And I think that's kind of opened up a whole new world for them as well. They understand that, if Reece was able-bodied, he'd probably be running into that scrum and tackle with them and cheering with them and singing the team song. I think for Reece, the changes in his personal growth, in his development of friendships, communication, definitely his language has improved. His confidence as a young man, he's 17, soon to be 18. He's found friendships there that are outside of football too. Like they come over and they hang out with him sometimes, which is unbelievable. That's what we want for him, as the same as other children. We wanted him to have friends, mates.
A week or so later, we went along to the semi-final game, Collies versus Thirroul, at Thirroul's home ground. Reece was going to toss the coin with the ref at the beginning of the game, and when the team left the Thirroul shed, heading down to the field, Reece walked beside his mate Saxon.
He's wearing Sonny's no shirt.
Saxon?
Yeah?
I love you, Saxon.
I love you too, buddy. Love you too, bro.
Well, Collies won, and so they were into the grand final. After the game is finished, the team all gather in the shed to get some comments from the coaches and managers and to belt out the team song. Reece heads straight in with them, but it wasn't always like that, as Jimmy points out.
Reece wouldn't go into the sheds. He wouldn't go near the dressing sheds. And then, so it started training. He wouldn't go near the dressing sheds, but he'd sort of just hang back, and you could see that he wanted to go in, but he didn't want to, sort of thing. So then we beat West at their home ground one day, and we gave him a flogging. It was good. And then I said, I didn't even have to say it twice. Reece, you want to come into the sheds and sing, and he just walked straight in. And then when we sung the song, he sort of stood back a bit. You could see he was a bit overwhelmed with everything. And as soon as it sort of ended, he walked out. I thought, this was, for me, that's a big win just to get him to walk in there. And I was pretty, it probably meant more to me than what it did to poor Reece. I was stoked with it.
A couple of years on from that, Reece is in there with the team, all excited and pumped from their win. And who do you think starts the song up?
Hooray, Carly! Hooray, up the Collies! Hooray, up the Collies! Hooray, up the Collies!
Shout out to Reece, of course, and Craig and Jimmy and all the Collegians players, management and coaching staff. Special shout out to Kylie, Reece's mum, who doesn't appear in the story, but she was the one who suggested we should talk to Reece and made it all happen. Thanks, Kylie! Well, that was actually our last story and last episode for Shift, at least for the time being. But don't worry, there's heaps more podcasts from The Edge for you. In our other podcasts, we are taking on some different themes around grief, death and dying, the importance of words and language for kids before they start school, Earth Nation stories and language, and much more. If you got used to listening to us on this feed and you are subscribed in your favourite podcast app, don't worry, we will upload the other podcasts from The Edge to this feed so you don't have to go looking for them. If you enjoyed listening to our podcast, you can support us to keep making more stories by going to Beyond Empathy's website and donating. You can make a one-off donation or commit to supporting us regularly. Every bit helps a lot. It's an easy site to find, www.be.org.au. That's B for Beyond, E for Empathy, so be.org.au. And of course, you can find out more information about the other podcasts from The Edge there too. And even if you can't support us with money, you can really help us by spreading the word. Tell your friends, colleagues and families to listen. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, like our posts and share them. You know what to do.
And if you want to have a conversation with the young people who've created Shift, we're also telling a bunch of our stories in what we're calling podformances. Podformances can be live, virtual or both. You can even host one. You could ask us to come and present at your school or for your team meeting, your conference, your event. Our young stars can appear live or virtually or both, tell a few stories and have a yarn about health and whatever else comes up. Just get in contact via our website. Okay, I'm going to whip through the credits now, and if you stay to the end of that on any of our podcasts, you are going to get to hear some comments and feedback from our listeners, maybe even yourself, so stay tuned. The people who made today's podcast are Caden, Kira, Nicole, Gail, Zane, Phil, Daniel, Bella, Levi, Shanice, Lily, Thomas, Natali, Harry, Ozzy, Daniel, Jesse, Chloe, Latrell, Emma, Cooper, Alice, Sharif, Brianna, Gemma, Jay, Shaniqua, Jacob, Elias, Anthony, Morris, Matt, Josh and Letitia. The music you heard in the stories is from Philip Okerstrom, Damian Mason and also Kevin MacLeod. A few years ago we ran a project called Blue Rose with people of all abilities. One of the things we learned about inclusion was that while having a special project was great, maybe being really inclusive would involve not having a special project and making sure that people of all abilities are represented and included in all of our works. We would like to thank the Blue Rose Advisory Group who helped come up with story ideas, make connections and guide us. Rod, Susan, Asunta, Martina, Michael and Sarah. Beyond Empathy has received funding for the podcasts from The Edge from the Australia Council for the Arts, Create New South Wales, Zurich Australia through the Z Zurich Foundation, Coordinaire, South Eastern New South Wales Public Health Network through the Australian Government Public Health Network Program, the Australian Government Department of Social Services under the Families and Communities Program through Barnardo's Australia, and also the Tony Foundation. Recently we got this comment on Facebook. Not just another podcast, this is like nothing I've ever heard before. The stories are told with a poetic rhythm that captures your attention as if by magic. The interviews, information stories take these dramatic turns into unexpected and complex ideas, coaxing you to think differently. And through all of this shine a group of young people who are proving that they should never ever be underestimated. Some guy once said, art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. Well done on both counts. Now, full disclosure, this is actually a comment from Gemma, who was on our team when we started the Podcast from the Edge project, and who had been working with our young people for about 15 years. But then she got the opportunity to go to Scotland and work on the TV show Outlander. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit worldwide and there was no film and TV work in Scotland, one small upside was that some of our young people could get onto Zoom calls with her and do some more workshops, mostly creating songs, which you will get to hear when we get to the Belagerang podcast. Anyway, she hadn't heard what Podcast from the Edge had become until she tuned in and checked them out. So thanks so much, Gem, for the comment and for all your work. We miss you. So if, like Gemma, you would like to leave us a message about our podcast or make a comment, tell us a story, you can send us a message via our social media pages or via the website, whichever is better for you. You've been listening to Shift, one of Beyond Empathy's podcasts from the Edge. We hope you'll join us as Parting, Ready Steady, Belagerang, and the new title we are working on, Grit, come online. Catch you then.